And?
Yes. Yeah, what are you required to do if you pick up a hamper? So you don't just, there are rules. You can't just go pick up free food, guys.
We're all working along with. It's good. Generally, because we've been running it for a week, we've asked people to register. You don't have to worry about registering. Show up tomorrow between 11 and 4 in the McMaster Student Union. You go upstairs. You can't miss us. We're going to have a table outside. It's room 229. In case you forget, head upstairs and you're going to find us. You get your basket, a typical food hamper. You try and live off it for 5 days. They say 3 to 5. It's essentially for 3, but most people have to make it run till 5 and not eat anything else. Work from it. I mean, it has the basics. You're going to get milk. You're going to get bread. You're going to get rice. You're going to get a little bit of canned veg. And again, you'll see not a whole lot, and you have to try and work with it and make it sustainable for you for the week. We'd love if you would blog about your experiences, if they're good, if they're bad, what it really is, the reality of having limited food choices and no other options that are available to you because of a lot of barriers. That runs from next week, Monday to Friday. We're going to hold a reflection session the following week. We would love for people to attend, again, just to raise awareness and really tell us the reality of that really sucks. But that is the reality for a large percent of the population in this area and abroad, and that's what we're trying to raise the awareness about. So please, we would love to see all of you come and get a hamper tomorrow. We got extra funding, and we're going to have to charge. We're thrilled to say that the funding is there. All the hampers are free, and we challenged the Spectator to take on our challenge, and Jeff Green from the Spectator, who is a Hamilton Spectator reporter, is going to take our challenge and write about it in the paper about his experience, so you might even get a little picture of some of the paper as well, which can't hurt. Okay, and at the very least, please, we have sent out an email, contact your MPPs, we get a full list of everybody in the area, let them know we need to put food back in the budget. Okay?
And if I can add, can I add?
Please,
can I add?
Please.
So the Do the Math campaign is like actually figuring out that there is no freaking way you can live with dignity on that amount of money. This is really, I mean, you're calling it Do the Math here, but it's really across the province called Eat the Math. Because what we did was people say, okay, absolutely you can't live off this, but what would it be like? We asked people on OW and ODSP, how much extra would it take for you to make it through the month? And they said about $50 a week. Like they run out of food 2 weeks into the month. And then they have 2 weeks where they eat a food bank diet. And this is basically eating the math, eating a food bank diet. And so we had people do this last year, people who are used to going to, like people who make $250, $300 grand, I don't know, what's the CEO of the Hamilton Community Foundation? So a lot of money showed up at the food bank. In fact, Carol Wood, a chaplain from McMaster University, showed up at the food bank. I took pictures of her picking up a week. Is this going in and out on purpose? Or? No. So, and then they ate it, and they had headaches, they couldn't participate in this and that, they couldn't, the sports they normally do and all this. So it sounds really fun. I'm sure you feel enticed right now, like, oh my God, I could eat, canned peas. That's about it. It's really crappy. You'll feel really rotten, but in the end, it's one of the best learning experiences you'll have. So I really hope that you do it. I came to the reflection last year and heard the students who had headaches and stuff, as if you didn't need headaches, and more headaches. But give it a go, and, it's better than a hangover. Thank you. It does cut in and out, eh?
Yeah, it doesn't usually do that.
Yay.
I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a go. If it gets too irritating, then I'll just yell.
Yeah, but if you just yell, it won't get podcast.
I know. I mean, I'll try. I'll keep it going. I'll do my best, my level best.
Off that 3 days, if you can make it 5, that would be impressive. And remember that other people have to do it all the time. Caution you that this means you don't get to go for beer.
Oh, that's why I've never done it.
Yeah.
I just promote it. I eat the beer bank diet.
Yeah.
Is this getting podcast, what I'm saying right now?
Yeah,
okay.
And I'm
Yeah, come and speak in my class whenever I ask.
I'm just on my knees praying right now. You can't see it because it's being podcast.
So our guest speaker tonight, and at the end of class, at the end of Deirdre's presentation, I'll be going over a few things. I know you have some questions about some things. But Deirdre's been an activist in the community for how long? Very long time.
Couple years.
I've known her for a very long time. She's worked in the area of poverty reduction for a very long time.
God, I am not that.
You're not that old.
I mean, you know, I don't mind being old, but I'm not that old. I just want to see if I can hear myself. Keep going. Say some more nice things.
You're lucky to have her speak to us tonight. Very knowledgeable. Asking questions that you might have. Listen carefully. Now is your
I asked if you would do it.
like she just walked into his class.
Place in doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. There you go.
You're up.
I'm really concerned about this cutting in and out. I'm not sure what it is. So I just don't want it to be so irritating. Like it's irritating enough to listen to my voice sometimes for too long. But if it cuts in and out, then that's. Don't you find that a little irritating? So, but we want to podcast it, so we're going to give it a go. I might have to stand still, which I hate. Like, I just don't know. But we'll see how it all works out. I've got about 45 minutes or something like that I'm going to try to pump you up about social movement, activism, voting, advocacy, being engaged politically. Is this the right class? Working at Social Planning Research Council, I try half the time of my career to eliminate or at least reduce poverty. We have 4 priorities at the Planning Council: poverty reduction, affordable housing and homelessness, children and families. Hi. You think? Yeah, but I thought it was working okay. What's it doing now? I appreciate the advice. I'm going to keep that in mind, like right front of mind. See your friend? Yeah, but you're mine, so it's okay. So he's mine now too. I just came from WAC. Yeah, yeah, good. I was just at the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center. That's what we call WAC, and she used to work there. So, there, I left behind this amazing presentation by a professor from Ryerson University on race and poverty. Just a fantastic speaker. So, but anyway, so I was there. That's why I was there. And thanks for that tip again. I will keep that in mind. So I step out of my front door half the time thinking, I'm going to work really hard to end poverty today. Because in Hamilton, there's this place called Cops Coliseum. You ever seen it? Ever been there? Saw Michael Jackson or somebody? So Cops Coliseum holds about 18,000 people. How many times do you think you could fill Cops Coliseum with the number of people who live in poverty? Thankfully not 7, but 5 is right. Who said 5? You win. Look, you're the first one to receive a Common Campaign Coalition pamphlet tonight. You may not be the last, but you are the first. The first shall be last. So then I don't know if that's good. So, but anyway, welcome and enjoy that pamphlet. So 5 times you can fill Cops Coliseum, 5 times with the number of people who live in poverty in Hamilton. And so that's a lot of how we concentrate my efforts at the Planning Council. But because I wasn't doing so hot on that, it only went down by 6,500 people in a 5-year period, I decided that I would try to end homophobia as well. Because, that would be easy. And so I spent half my time going around Ontario talking about ending homophobia. I just got back from 4 days in Deep River. Is anybody here from Deep River? Are you from Deep River?
Around there, yeah.
Chalk River?
Yeah, generally.
What's the place?
Petawawa.
Oh, Petawawa. I'm going back to speak at Petawawa. So Deep River, the high school students at Mackenzie High, they wanted to end homophobia. Well, they don't know that they wanted to, but they do now that they've heard me. They were probably into instituting it until I came up. But anyway, so I spent a lot of time having that conversation, outing the conversation about homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. And then, as I was saying earlier at the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center, as I was introducing Grace Edward Galabuzzi, the other thing we need to out is the reality of and its impact on poverty and its impact, that just still continues be terrible in our community. 52% of newcomers in Hamilton live below the low-income cutoff. So there is a lot of stuff going on about poverty in this community because it is just such an issue. How many are you really from this community? Like, how many are you from Hamilton originally or been here for a while? Right. So the rest of you might find that shocking that there's that much poverty in Hamilton. 5 times we could fill Copps Coliseum, and that's about 1 in 5 people. So this galvanizes people. When you hear something like that, like you could fill Copps Coliseum 5 times with the number of people who live in poverty, people in Hamilton went, holy crap, like that's a lot of people. That's, they started to realize it's my neighbor, oh, it's my mother, seniors, it's my cousin, it's, particularly my Aboriginal relatives. Oh my gosh, it's particularly women. I mean, the gender analysis, the racial analysis, all of this that needs to continue to be made. Started to happen when it gets excited when it bounces on my breast. I think that's it. Did I say it? Oh man, is this around the world podcast kind of thing? No. Oh, okay, too bad. Knowing that there's that many people living in poverty in Hamilton is something that gets people riled up and, respond to. And so we've been working really hard to promote some local campaigns. A few years ago, I had a student, a placement student from McMaster School of Social Work, who came on board, and we did this postcard campaign to try to impact some change around government setting targets to reduce poverty, because they don't like to do that. Because if we say, well, we're really going to hit this target in 20 years, something to measure them by. See, I can't move. Oh, I hate it. So, we really wanted them to set targets because we know they work. In England, they set targets to reduce poverty 25% in 5 years, and in 25% they reduced poverty, in 5 years, they reduced poverty 23.5%. And people said, wow, that's really good. You got so close to that target. And that's helpful. And the government wasn't afraid to set the target. But here, they're a bit nervous about setting targets because we will pay attention and we'll be able to say, uh-oh, if you didn't hit, close to 25. What we across Ontario, and the Liberal government, heard us and heard half of what we said and said, okay, we'll reduce 25% in 5 years for children. Now, I don't have too much against kids, but, I don't think all the focus needs to be on them, because I'm not one anymore. So I think, we need to share that around. I thought it should all be on children when I was one, but now that I've grown up, I think, to hell with the kids. Because what happens is people focus their attention on kids because they're cute and they're innocent. And, it's not their fault that their mother was so irresponsible and having sex with that man and getting pregnant when she shouldn't have. And now we have these single mothers, and it's all their fault. But the poor child. And so we're making Hamilton the best place to raise a child, but not the mother, per se. We don't necessarily increase resources to the people who need it, who could actually feed their kids before they go to school. We implement student nutrition programs. This is being podcast. So, to the funders of the student nutrition programs, thank you. Keep that up. But we need both and. Have you heard this little catchphrase, both and, not either or? So we need both charity and justice. So when we're addressing poverty, we need to feed them. They're hungry when they show up at school because we don't give enough on social assistance or minimum wage or entry-level jobs or retrain or all the other reasons that people don't have enough money to feed their kids at home. So yes, we better have the charitable response of food at school. But holy smokes, at the same time, we better be doing something to change that system so that kids could actually stay home eventually and eat before they left for school, because there'd be something in the fridge and they wouldn't be going to get a food bank diet. You see what I mean? Charity and justice, both and, not either or. So there's lots of organizations that, you know, put pictures of kids on their posters and they look like poor kids, and so we want to give money to poor kids. But at the same time, we have to call on the organizations that have power and that are involved systemically in the existence of poverty. We have to call on them to do to make some change in the policies as well. And so locally, we had that impact with 25 and 5. So we thought, holy smokes, we'll try it again. We'll do this thing called the Common Campaign Coalition. And you'll see 25 and 5 Hamilton up there as a link, because the two things are linked. They're campaigns that involve people that actually live on OW and ODSP. A whole variety of folks who have been galvanized by the message that, holy crap, a lot of poverty exists in our community. What can we do about it? So retired teachers, people from faith communities, professors from McMaster University, housing advocates, Kim Ross, all kinds of important people belong to the Common Campaign Coalition. Do you? Do you? Do you? See? But you're important, so you should. And that's what I'm here to say tonight, is that it's really important to get engaged in whatever way you can. So there's two things I want to focus on. This is our Common Campaign Coalition. Now, you know all about it because you're so darn smart, knowing the 5 times in the Cops Coliseum and all. So what exactly are the 3 demand areas of the Common Campaign? Don't push me away.
Increase minimum wage, improve housing, improve adequacy in social assistance. There you go.
That was amazing. You got to do something to keep yourself awake. You got to sit here all night. Holy smokes. That was good. So these are, how many of you work at a job where you get minimum wage? How rich does that feel? How many of you on minimum wage jobs also require some assistance such as OSAP or other ways to finance your education? Good. I kind of want to ask, but it's a bit personal. Like, how many of you make so much money in your jobs that, you can pay for your own education? Anybody? You'd have to admit oh, good. Let's talk later. I wonder what you do. I want your job. So we are driven to know and realize that precarious work, the kinds of jobs that exist now in our community here in Hamilton and around Ontario, do not make enough for people to make ends meet. And that includes, in my book, students. Students need to make a living wage, as much as anybody, because the kinds of debt loads that you're going to be carrying. So this is a nonpartisan campaign. We're calling on every party to consider these demands. So the first one is increasing minimum wage to a level that would be indexed with inflation and that sort of thing, to a better wage. So I mean, I'd sign a petition if that was part of it. That's my first coercive point. Do you have a question? Waving? Just stretching? Sorry. So that's one. Improve access to adequate and how do you like where you live? Who loves where they live? Who is having trouble with the landlord? Not kind of fixing things up, or, I don't know, having bad tenants around you, or, bed bugs, I don't know, kind of crappy things. So that's happening to a lot of people, especially people who don't make a good living in Hamilton. And we have a wait list of, 5,000 people in Hamilton are waiting for affordable housing, for social housing. Over 5,000 people. And in the meantime, while they wait for that subsidized housing, there are only about 500 people or something that get this subsidy, right? 500 people get a little extra money to be able to afford market rent. Yes.
That 5,000, does that include all the children, all the individuals in the family, or is that like 5,000 families?
It's 5,000 households, so the list is done based on the number of households waiting to be moved into adequate or suitable housing.
Okay, so that household would be like 5 to 5%.
person, or it could be like, you know, a parent with children, or it could be 5 people.
Sort of a ventriloquist. I don't know all the answers, so I just bring along my dummy. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry, but, you know, my Charlie. The important dummy, that's right. Thank you very much. So, in case you missed that, the question was, people, does it mean, but it means households. Yeah. Could be, it's more than 5,000 people, right? So anyway, that's dismal. 500 people, 500 households get help while 5,000 wait for social housing. And how long do they wait? Well, they're told by the municipal government that the wait is somewhere around, 3 to 5 years, 4 to 5 years, but it's really more like 8 years, lots of the time, that people are waiting to find adequate housing. So we have a demand around that the Ontario Housing Benefit introduced, and some other things about this rent supplement program. And then our third area is about social assistance. I don't need to make a pitch for that, because you already heard the do the math thing. You already heard, the rate. So how many of you are single and making minimum wage? Like unattached individuals. It doesn't mean you don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. Catch a little of this, that once in a while. I'm talking about like that you are responsible for your own self as a single individual. So some of you are those individuals that making minimum wage. The level of the low income cutoff in Hamilton for a single person is $20,000. How many of you are making $20,000 living by yourself? Hey, nice. I'm coming with you. Anybody else? $20,000? You're the richest in the class. Pass her this. No, you'll get one. So $20,000. Most students are living in the low income cutoff range, below living in poverty. If you're on social assistance, for example, Ontario Works, making that $592 times 12, like you're making less than about $7,000 or so before taxes. $7,000 a year when it really costs about $20,000 to live in this community. So people cannot live in dignity. The thing is, and I know people think, oh, but those people, on social assistance, man, like, let's get through this. They're definitely drinking beer. Do you know how much beer you can afford? Like, I couldn't afford the amount of beer that I drink on that diet. The $5.92 and do the math and all of that stuff does not leave, like, a can of Rickard's Red is $2.50. $2.50. Like, we should have a demand for that. But you cannot afford to go out and buy these cans of beers, like, very cheaply when you're making Ontario Works money. The welfare fraud rate, if you come from a place where you're thinking, yeah, but those poor people, they're always just ripping us off anyway. They probably get 2 checks and they don't tell anybody. 3.5%. 3.5% of people on social assistance are ripping off the system. Do you know how many people who make $100,000 are ripping off the system through tax evasion, through all kinds of loopholes and stuff? So I wouldn't be pointing the finger quite yet, and or make sure you know where it's going. So we have a lot of myths to bust around social assistance. How many of you know somebody who's ever been on social assistance? It might be yourself, but I'm not asking you that at this time. But you might have had some experience. You know somebody who has. Am I lying or am I telling the truth? Am I telling the truth? Am I telling the truth about social assistance? Okay, the rest think I'm lying. So it's not a very good percentage. The rest you didn't know you could answer because you didn't have your hand up for that previous round. I know the rest of you probably do believe. Do you believe that assistance is not?
Yeah.
Okay, we got some today. Now, I used to work for the Catholic Church. For 14 years, I was a pastoral associate. My degree's in theology. So I could stand up here and try and convert you. Or you could go to the Common Campaign Coalition website. You could read our stuff. You could go to Poverty Free Ontario. And you could find out that, I'm not the only one saying this, that there is a lot of... there are a lot of untruths out there about social assistance, the rates, who's on it, and what it allows. And the way that we like to talk about people, whether they're able to participate fully in community. What does it mean to participate in community? Can you catch a bus and go to a job interview? The program's called Ontario Works. So we're supposed to be able to help people work, but they can't even afford bus tickets to get to half the places, or they have to walk to the local OW office to pick up a bus ticket. It's back and forth. It goes on and on. So many things that have to change. We need you to be involved in this. Because I don't know if you've figured out how politics works yet, but it works by majority rules. And it means majority voices. And it means that people have campaign offices where somebody's answering the phone, and if somebody is calling that phone every 2 seconds going, social assistance isn't enough, social assistance isn't enough, a different voice. You can't just sit there all day and call by. I tried that, you know, it was boring first of all, and they caught on real fast. You need different voices calling, saying, social assistance isn't enough, social assistance isn't enough. Then that constituency office worker is like the member of parliament or provincial Parliament comes in and says, how was your day? Holy crap, they won't stop calling. Social assistance isn't enough. Can you do something about that? That's how things change. You have some person that has accepted all these phone calls all day, and they start saying, there's all these phone calls. Like thousands of people are calling saying social assistance isn't enough. It matters. And then something will happen, because instead what's happening is I had a meeting with Madeleine Mayer. Does anybody know who Madeleine Mayer is? If you do, I would want to give you a bigger prize than that pamphlet. Oh, somebody knows. Oh, I hope I have something good on me. What is it? Who is she? She is an MPP. Do you know what her job is? She probably was Francophone Affairs, you know, or something. Thanks very much. Good answer. Not good enough to get a big prize, so I'm going to keep the car for the next class. But Madeleine Mayer is a member of provincial parliament. She's also a cabinet minister responsible for the Ministry of Community and Social Services. And therefore, she's responsible for social assistance rates. And we met her. I went and sat with her. She doesn't smile like one bit. Not one bit. Now, I'm not that funny. Some people think I am. Do you think I am? Good. She did not, one bit. Not one bit. Mad as hell. Like, just sat there. And we had somebody on Ontario Disability Benefits. We had the head of Social Planning Network of Ontario, myself, and somebody else really important. Anyway, we were sitting there with her, and we asked her to do the math. And she refused to do the math. She's like, I do not need to do the math. I know that social assistance rates aren't high enough. And then she went on to tell us some story about how she was a nurse in like she used to deliver babies, but she's never had a baby herself. But even though, now stick with me, because I had to stick with her for a while, and she was in charge of Francophone Affairs, so we know English wasn't her first language, so it was, I was trying to follow, and she was like, I've never had a baby. Oh, okay, sorry, or not, or whatever. And then she said, I never had a baby, but I have been in the delivery room and seen them and helped them come out. And so I didn't have to have a baby to know what that's like, so I don't have to do the math to know what it's like to live on social assistance. Just, what a good analogy, I thought. So then, Darren, who is on ODS, on Ontario Disability Support Payments, he is an amazing guy. He runs for City Council in Sarnia. Anybody here from Sarnia? Ta-da! There's this amazing guy in your hometown who runs for City Council every year. He's about 30 or so. He started having strokes when he was about 18. A real leader in the community. You ever heard of him? You ever heard of him? See your brother? Nobody will know. Say, yeah, I'm influenced by him. So, but you have heard of him. You have heard of him. Yeah. So he sat there across from Madeleine Mayer with me, and when she said that she would not do the math, I mean, this is why you have to work with people with the lived experience. I can get mad and think, are you kidding me? How arrogant. Like, just do the math, you know? But this is somebody that it means a hell of a lot more to than doing, this is, his life is doing the math, seeing if he can work, you know, work to make ends meet. He was so visibly shaken when she said this analogy about the healthcare thing. And then she went on to say, truly, the people of Ontario do not have an appetite to raise social assistance rates. So, and you're like, yeah, she's probably right. And I'm here to increase your appetite. Harvey Milk used to go around saying, I'm here to recruit you. So I do that when I'm doing my homophobia thing. But, you know, tonight, since it's about poverty, you know, I'm here to give you an appetite to increase social assistance rates, to increase minimum wage, and to do something about affordable housing in this province. And we can only do it by kind of pissing off the constituency office person who answers the phone. Like call and call and call and fax and fax and fax. And sign endorsements and put them on your Facebook and tweet the Common Campaign Coalition, because what we want to do by Tuesday is release some kind of media release in Hamilton that says, wow, we have 2,000 people, and that's kind of a lot. It doesn't seem like it, but it is a big number. Say 2,000 people signed on to say poverty is a #1 issue in this provincial election. So that's our goal. So we have some students from a 3rd or 4th year class or whatever, this 4J03 thing. Not that you guys aren't important because of what year you're in. You're in a very important year. But these are older students in this social movements class, and a bunch of them have been working to get 1,000 signatures, and the email I read, they have about 750 or something. So they're doing amazingly. They're standing up with this petition, and I'm going to get Megan to help me hand them out. They're stapled in groups of 10 for some reason, but anyway, like just kind of pass them around. So here's the thing with this petition. It's signing on to this Common Campaign Coalition thing, which disappeared. Will it come back if I just tap something nicely? There we go. Oh, no. All right. I'll start those around and some petitions, endorsements. This is an online campaign. If you can trust yourself to go online after this right now, even right now. Anyway, my breast. It's funny because most people don't even notice them, and I get kicked out of every women's washroom there is. It's true. This woman teaches at college. I was following this woman into the bathroom last week, and like I was just walking along, la, 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 with my breasts and ovaries and everything. And she opened the door, and then she turned to me and said, "Sorry, this is the ladies." And I said, "That's why I brought my girls." So anyway, and now tonight they're getting in the way. It's terrible. It's a curse. It's a curse. I've been kicked out of some of the best bathrooms in the world, but that's another lecture. So, how many of you are planning on voting? Nicely done. Nicely done. We just need to double the hands. Because how many of you are not planning on voting so far? And I won't chastise you or say anything bad. How many of you could, probably I won't vote because I don't know who to vote for? How about that? Because I don't know who to vote for. Or I think it's useless. Doesn't do any good. Well, that's not too many of you, so I don't need to make up too many more excuses. How come? Is there other reasons you're not voting? Yeah. Not of age. Right. I bet you can't drink either. Jeez. But you will when you're of age, right? Vote, not drink. And what about you? Same thing? Age? Yeah. Okay. So that's a really great show of hands. It's an even better show of hands if you're voting on the issues that matter to me. Like poverty. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just saying, check out who's saying what about poverty. Who's agreeing to some of these important issues that we're raising? Who needs these pamphlets? Have they come back very far at all? You need them? Okay. And take extras if you have friends. Like, I don't have any. If you have any friends, it would be good to hand out. That's why Sandra lets me come to her class, because I don't have enough friends to help. More of these, but not more petitions. So it's an online campaign. And on the back of that pamphlet is the website. There's a look at it there, 245hamilton.ca/CCC. Send it out. Do whatever you can in your social media. Send it to your family and friends. Ask them to sign on. Because what would be amazing if we could say we have 3 people that signed on to this campaign next week comes along. I'm going to pass around a few more pamphlets. These are voting on October 6th. So, I'll just start some there, and then we'll start some over here and share them out. If you're really interested, just grab them. Heard of Jack a whole bunch of people, young people. He really liked young people, so I've decided I like them too now. I like kids, okay, you know. But I really am learning to like university-age students and people who are interested in working toward their own what's the top there? Maslow's hierarchy of needs? What is it? So, actualization, that's right. So you're working toward that self-actualization, and on the way, you know, it obviously means taking along everybody you can with you. And so when you believe and buy into the reality of participating in community, you start to learn that you want to be involved in these issues. So I'm really encouraging you to sign on. Here's the online campaign, the website, endorse it there, but if you're signing those sheets, sign those sheets. And do you stay for this class? Yeah, this is your job. I don't even know why you're here exactly. Okay. But not because I asked you to come. Okay. Because I did ask you to come. Yeah, okay. So Megan will collect those sheets at the end. And then we put your name into the computer for you. Just because we're afraid that you're like me. Think, oh, for sure I'm going to sign on to that campaign. I wonder what's in the fridge. And then next thing you know, you forget about that campaign, and the people are still poor. We brought the paper version so you can do the work for you. That's how it goes. We just sit back and go, geez, what's in the fridge? I think I'll have a beer. Too bad about those people. I mean, not on purpose. It's not that we don't love them and we don't want to do the right thing. Our intent is probably good, but the impact of our inaction is what's freezing up this society and not making it move forward. So I'd really encourage you to don't look in the fridge as much. Now look at me telling you that. Look in the fridge and then go back and try to do something to make change. For sure, vote. For sure, encourage people in your circles to vote. Post that on your Facebook. I hope you're voting on October 6th, that sort of thing. And be engaged in the issues and active in McMaster. Thanks so much for having me tonight. All questions? Thank you. Apparently there's some time for questioning. Now a lot of people like to ask, when did you know that you were a lesbian? And then they whisper it because they can't quite get it out. They're kind of afraid. Like the whole thing, like, you know, I think racism is an issue. No, racism is an issue. I'm a lesbian with 7. So there you go. What is it? Were you just passing? So here I am. I wanted to come and see how you were. Yeah, did you want to ask that question after all? Yeah, make one up. I'm sorry, I don't think we do. But if there's somebody here who might share them, you are in the helping profession. So if somebody has an extra, share it on. Any other important questions like that? Kids. Okay. I don't work with hospitals to homes, and it's now called Transitions to Homes. Yeah, no, I don't, but it's an amazing program.
My sister is the Rec and Leadership programmer who creates programs to help get people off the streets and into housing. So she takes the families and finds housing for them to get that into their everyday life.
Wow. That's great. She's just talking about this program called Transitions to Homes, and it's this really cool program that they were able to do in Hamilton because they could identify through research, which is an important piece of community work. People go, oh, research. Please, we can't all sit around and listen to people and their problems. Somebody has to be doing the policy stuff. So don't all pick to sit around and listen to people and help them. I mean, I think it's important, but you got to do some policy work too. And it was because of research and policy that we were able to come up with the Transition to Homes program. We looked at how the shelter use was working in about 30 men who lived in the shelters all year round. That's not emergency housing anymore. That's just where they lived. And so they took those 30 men and created this special program for them, thing, and moved out into the real housing and stuff. So great program. Thanks for bringing it up. I saw another hand. Did I? Yep. Okay.
I read an article a while back on a policy/program that would thanks.
Say it again. I read a thing.
I read an article a while back on a policy, the government policy that would bring into effect there's a nice hum, a $20,000 allowance for every adult over the age of like 18 or something like that, which would basically they would get rid of welfare and financial social assistance and bring in a $20,000. Okay, people know what I'm talking about. A policy. I was just wondering your opinion on the idea of the program.
Is that the guaranteed annual income? Yeah. Yeah. Right. So remember I said the whole both and thing? That's a great question. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of us around the province saying raise social assistance rates. And out of the other, not the whole side of my mouth, but out of the other little corner that's left, I'm like, but the system really isn't that great. And maybe there is something new and better and beautiful that could come about to deal with all income security, and that's called the guaranteed annual income. And I suspect that some great thinker is going to come up with how we'll implement that down the road. And I would support it, but I don't support it if in the meantime they're saying, so just stop this about social assistance while we do this, and we'll just allow those people to live this way for another decade while we figure out this great system over here. So I know it's difficult, but you know that's what they got elected for, and so let's figure out how to do it. How do we, you know, allow people to live with dignity on the rates that we have now, while we introduce a brand new system, you know, bigger cogs in the wheel. Thanks for the question. Any other?
Over there.
Hi.
And I think it was occurring before Southwood closed down.
There we go. Why is there such a high rate of poverty in Hamilton? So, poverty in Ontario is around 13–14%. And the poverty rate in Hamilton is about 20%. So we're definitely higher than the provincial average. A big part of that reason is we were a big manufacturing base for this community. And so the jobs that have closed down in the last decade are jobs that they were the kind that would allow somebody's parent, usually in this case a dad. We called this last recession a he session because most of the people who lost their jobs were men who had always put that one ball bearing in that place or held that rivet gun and did that job, you know, since he came out of high school. And he put his kids through university. Some of you might be sitting here with your dad or mom or both moms or both of your dads laid off from this factory. And but anyway, most of that happened around this area. A lot of that happened in Hamilton because we just had, it wasn't just Stelco and other places like that. We just lost another 350 jobs at Siemens. We lost our brewery, for Pete's sake. You can imagine how that just hit me so hard. So that's a big reason. And then we do have this geography where we're so close to Toronto. It's pretty expensive to live in Toronto. If you're living in poverty, you need somewhere that's a bit cheaper. So we're second stage place sometimes for people coming from Toronto. In terms of, but because of racism, I want you to know that lately, whereas Hamilton used to be a second stage place where newcomers would go to Toronto first and then they'd come here, they don't around and realize they're not getting work, something's not right here, and people are taking off out of Hamilton and going to Waterloo and Kitchener. And so now that's where the kind of third wave of, you know, sort of some at-risk and poverty kind of related folks are heading. So it's not a good situation. But so that's why, where did that go? That's why, part of why the rate of poverty is higher here in Hamilton. And there was another question behind there. There we are. Can you shout it out, or you want me to bring you the microphone so you can sing? The rate, like how much somebody on ODSP? I don't remember what a single person gets on ODSP. Thanks for your question. It's choking me. time that I was choking, I found out about $860 is what a single person would get on ODSP. When people transition to ODSP, it's seen as a more permanent, this is where they're going to be staying for a while. Sometimes people do transition off ODSP. They do have, better health outcomes and something happens. But often people are on ODSP kind of for the rest of their lives. Well, they're half, they can still be working and all sorts of things, other engagement for sure. But so it is a bit of a higher rate because it is seen as something that's more permanent, and there's some recognition of health needs. Yes, sir. Yeah?
It's two factors. If you're in school, you get the full amount, which is a little over 1,000, I believe. I can't remember if you work, so you get a factor less, like a proportion of what you make.
That's right.
Percentage taken off, so of that 1,000 is something.
That's right. You bring up a really good point. We always are hearing about, the taxation rate and how high the tax rate is. The people who are taxed the highest in our province are people on OW and ODSP. When they work, 50% of what they make is clawed back. So I'm on Ontario Works. I don't want to be here. I want to try and get off and make a little bit more money, so I get a part-time job at Tim Hortons, and half of that comes off my paycheck. 50%. We don't tax the richest people in our country at that rate. What the hell is that about? Hell, I said right on the podcast. What's up?
Oh, I don't need it. I can just talk.
Okay.
So just we keep talking about things that people can get if they're low on food, but just out of curiosity, you didn't mention anything about living arrangements. If you can't, are there things in Hamilton for people to go live with their families or?
So, do you mean shelters? The social housing wait list, like I said, is some people ahead of you. Right? So you sign up today because you need social housing, you got about 8 years to wait, and depending on your family type. That's one of the harder to house, right? The single people. I'm telling you, the best advice I can give you is hook up with someone. Fall in love if you have to, but even if you don't want to, just hook up with someone, because the people who are doing the worst in our community are unattached individuals. And more, we are living alone. We can't get along. We don't like each other. We want to be isolated, but I'm telling you, it's not good for your own personal economy, and it's not good for the community. But that is to me, one of the saddest statistics, that more and more people are living alone, and the housing requirements, or the housing opportunities for individual people just don't exist. And so Megan and my partner who works in affordable housing are talking about this thing called pocket housing, which is particularly made for single, unattached adults. So the difference between single and unattached is single, if you're single, that usually refers to your romantic status. Unattached means you don't live with anybody, but you have 4 boyfriends or 4, girlfriends or whatever. So that's the difference there. Any more questions? I'm pretty sure you have other really important things to learn. Do you have petitions you want to send down, endorsement pages that you want to send to the front? Thank you. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I really hope that you stay engaged. Stay engaged. Thanks. That was a pleasure.
Hello? We have some stuff left over from last week that we need to finish up. And I have a few announcements to make and probably some questions to answer about assignments, etc. Since people are worried about them already, but we'll talk about them more as time goes on. The last assignment actually you can't do till after you do the workshop in your tutorial. So let's finish up last week's first. We were talking about inadequate income and classism, and starting to talk about the impact of classism on individuals. And talked about identity and self-esteem and how classism impacts people's, the way they think about themselves, the way they think about their capacity to act on their environments and to chart their own life paths. We talked about voice and who gets listened to and who doesn't. We talked about opportunities and how they build on each other and how having a lack of opportunities at the very beginning of your life can impact the number of opportunities you have during your life. And now that Deirdre's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have decided that the world is not laughing enough. I've met way too many people who go an entire week and don't really have that from the belly laugh. So I have decided to make a video that will help you laugh. Whenever you're feeling down, just hold on to this video. I'm going to keep it on my website. Whatever you need, come back to this video and give yourself a laugh. And I would really encourage you to forward this on to anyone you can think of who could use a little bit of laughter in their day. So here's how it works. You have to copy me. All right? You have to imitate me. You have to mimic me. Whatever I do right now on camera, just do the exact same thing. Don't worry about whether or not you're doing it right. Just do it. Okay? Here we go. I'm going to be a total goof, but I'm going to make you laugh. The only way I can make you laugh, though, is if you do it. So here we go. We're going to start really easy, okay? Here we go. La 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 la. La 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 la. Ba. Ba. Ba 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 ba. Hiya ma. Hiya ba ha ba ha ba ha. Hiya ha 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 ha. Ha ba. Ha 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 ha. Ha ba. Ha ba ha ba ha ha ha. Keep going, okay? Now let's just speak any old language. Now, any language that you can make up as we go, okay? Just follow me. Here's my language. Now, let's just go. Do this. Do it with me. All right, let's keep going. All right, there you go. I guarantee if you just mimic that any day of the week, you will laugh your ass off. Have fun. Pass it on.
And Stuart Knight is our keynote speaker on Monday. And if you want to register for that, you need to go to Oscar Plus. And Oscar Plus, the website is right there. And now I'm all tangled up. I don't know what Deirdre did to this, but... Okay. You need to go to Oscar Plus and register. We also are having a series of career conversations where groups of about 20 people get together with an alumni from the social sciences or humanities to talk about their careers and how they got their careers. So go to Oscar Plus, all the information is there, and I think you'd be a fabulous speaker to listen to. I would go. I have to do something else that night, but I wish I could go. So, back to the boring stuff. So, what I want you to think about is classism. It changes the way our society operates. It impacts the way our society operates. It provides opportunities to some people and removes opportunities from other people. And we talked about access to justice and how access to justice is impacted. If you can't afford a good lawyer, you will get poorer representation, or you may have no lawyer. Then you have to go in and represent yourself in the court system. Access to power. I think it's very difficult to move into positions of power without money. It's hard to get an education without money. And an education is often a requirement for access to power. And it determines the kinds of places you can live, the kinds of places you can shop, the kinds of places you can go to. There are shops that you can't walk into unless you look like you have a lot of money. Anybody tried going to one of those really? Yeah? And what happened?
It was in France, and it was this really fancy scarf store, and she walked in, and she just gave me this look, and I spent about 2 seconds in there because she was just staring at me.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Well, I'm from like downtown Toronto, and like used to like if you go into their uniform on, they like come to you and they're like, here, like have this stuff, like come with us. But if you change clothes and go in, like the security will walk up to you and be like, do you guys need help?
Yep. Yep. Can I help you? What are you looking for? Oh, I'm just looking around. Oh. And then they follow you around the store. And class has to be maintained. And we talked about how oppression works to create and maintain structural differences between people. And of course, the best way to maintain class is to have control of resources and the means of production. So, for example, Deirdre was talking about all the jobs that have been lost in Hamilton. And where do you think those jobs went? Yep.
America?
But where in America?
Where they can get cheap labor.
Cheaper labor, fewer standards, both labor and environmental protection. It's really interesting. It used to be that jobs would go overseas, but now they're going to places within North America, within the United States, that have dropped their labor standards, dropped their environmental protection standards, so that businesses will move there. Or businesses are paid large amounts of money to move there. So if you have a factory that you can move anywhere in the world, then you have control over who gets jobs and what you pay them, and whether you take care of the place that your factory is in. I was just listening to the CBC today, and there's a charge against a company that worked, and now I'm not going to remember the place where the company worked. Did anybody else hear that? They've been charged with corruption. They actually bribed officials to reduce the amount of money they had to pay to people in a village where an explosion occurred. So they had operated irresponsibly. They had legally been found to operate irresponsibly. They had used the bribe of, I think it was a $195,000 car and a $5,000 vacation to bribe this official so they would have to pay less in compensation. That's complete control over the means of production. That decides whether you get a job or not. That decides how much you get paid for that job. And if factories and capital can be moved all over the world without many barriers, then they decide whether you live or die. And they decide whether Canada is a have or a have-not country. And you don't have a lot to say about that. The only way you have a say over that is if you elect people who put laws in place that disallow that kind of movement. Or if, like in Tennessee, the city that there was a call center in Montreal, in Quebec, near Montreal, and they just closed their doors. They just laid everybody off, refused to pay any severance pay, went bankrupt, took their whole call center, moved it or went to move it to a place in Tennessee, and they were just going to open up again. hire a whole bunch more people, and when they didn't like the working conditions or whatever people were acting like, or if people started to demand proper pay or proper working conditions, they'd go bankrupt again and just move to another place. And so all those people, they were out a month's wages. They just didn't get paid. They'd worked and they didn't get paid. And the mayor of the city that this place was moving to said, don't come here. I thought, that's what needs to happen. Somebody needs to say, no, you cannot operate that way. We won't allow it. So we have some marginal control over that. Class is maintained through control of the media. And remember, I talked about Jersey Shore. Well, of course, you decide to a certain extent what's put out there by what you watch, but also they decide what they'll put on TV, what kinds of shows will be shown and which ones won't. The people who run MGM, AMC, Fox Network, and those are not poor people, just so you know. And an undermining of class consciousness. And remember how we talked about everybody wants to be middle class? Everybody wants to think that they're middle class? Well, then that means that they don't think about the fact that they might be at a disadvantage, that they don't have power and need to come together as a group to develop power. If everybody thinks they're okay, if they're middle class or they could be middle class, then they don't see themselves as people who could work together. And there have been periods of time in our history where people have identified themselves as working class, come together as working class people, and challenged the power that says you can only make this much, you can only, you have to work in unsafe conditions. I mean, it's one of the reasons we have unions. People got together and said, we're not doing this anymore. People got together and said, if I walk off the shop floor, I'll get fired. If we all walk off the shop floor, what are they going to do then? I think another example of how the media is controlled is, how many people have heard about the sit-ins on Wall Street, the protests on Wall Street? Where did you find out about those? Anybody read about the Wall Street protests in the paper? It's not in the paper. It's only available online. And you might say, why is that? I think that class is also maintained at an individual level. And we've talked a little bit about this, but the whole idea of meritocracy, the whole idea that the people who are rich deserve to be rich because they work hard and they're the best. And so if you're poor, what does that say to you? It's your own fault. You're poor because either you haven't worked hard enough or there's something wrong with you. And that's a really easy way to control people and keep them quiet. Because if it's your fault, then you better work on yourself. You don't look outside of yourself. You don't look at the social structures. You look at what's wrong with you. And that relates to individualism. So we see poverty as an individual problem for individual people. And as Deirdre was saying, we see that there's something wrong. If you're poor, there's got to be something wrong with you. And that allows us to say, okay, then I'm not poor because there's something better about me. And something I call hedonistic consumerism. How many of you go shopping as a recreation? How many of you go to the coffee shop for a break? Out to dinner? How many of you have heard of Buy Nothing Day? One day a year where you buy nothing for the whole day. Do you know how hard that is? Anybody tried it? Tried the Buy Nothing Day? up doing is buying all your stuff on Thursday so that you don't have to buy anything on Friday, which kind of misses the point. Consuming things, buying things, it has become almost a passion for our society. Shopping there's a whole shopping channel. I think there's more than one, where you watch things being sold. And if you look at every show, I'm sure Jersey Shore, they go shopping all the time. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. I know on the shows I watch, they go shopping all the time. Think about how much buying things distracts you. Think about the whole idea of bread and circus, the whole idea I was talking about. If you just keep people fed well enough and you keep them entertained, well, they've taken it one step further. We can also make them work really hard and take all their money and sell them stuff they don't need. And then we'll spend millions of dollars convincing them that they need it. So think about makeup. Now, nothing against makeup. Well, yes, stuff against makeup. Really, think about it. Think about if you wear makeup, how much time it takes you to put on your makeup. And people will say, "Oh, 15 minutes. I've got my makeup down to 10. I can do my makeup in 10 minutes." Or your hair. Think about your makeup and your hair. For most of and guys, don't go, "Oh, that has nothing to do with me," because one of the fastest growing areas in cosmetics and hair products is men's products. There's a few people going, "Yes, my hair is beautiful. What are you talking about?" So I'm not knocking self-care. I'm not knocking being nice to yourself. I just want you to think about how much time and money goes into makeup and hair and what else could be done with that. That's all. Think about clothes. How many outfits do you really need? How many pairs of shoes does a person need? Not want, not think it's really cool to have. People are going, "I don't like this part of the lecture." I just want you to think about it. I want you to spend the next week thinking about how much time, energy, and resources you put into buying things. Fast food, clothes, makeup, gas, whatever. And then how we use those things that we buy to categorize people. So not only do we spend a lot of time and money and energy on arraying ourselves, but then we judge people by what kind of clothes they have, how their hair is done, do they wear makeup, do they wear high heels, do they have the latest backpack. We decide who they are. And my point is, that gives power, not to you, not to the people that you judge, but to the people who market to you. Now, I also have to say that, I'm not living a hermit or a monk's life, and I go to Starbucks and buy more books than any person really could possibly read ever. So I'm not saying I'm perfect and you guys should change. I'm saying, think about it. I think about it. I feel guilty every time I go to Starbucks. I don't think that's good enough, but I do feel guilty. Think about it. And finally, I think one of the most effective tactics that power uses to maintain power is divide and conquer, is to pit people against each other. So people who are working very hard at minimum wage jobs, who are taught to and pushed to see people who get social assistance as other, not as their allies, but as other, as people, as those lazy welfare bums. All the forms of oppression that pit us against each other are ways to keep us having less power. So if I don't talk to the person on the street, I'm thinking about this guy on Saturday who was just sitting downtown, and yeah, I guess he's an eyesore. He's got his hat out, and he's begging people for money, but this guy's actually really polite and says hi to you, and if you don't have money, he says, that's okay, have a great day. And as I'm coming out of the market, or was I going into the market? One of them. I'm with my little grandson, and there's the action police. These are a group of police that work downtown. And they're giving this guy a ticket and telling him he has to move on and harassing him. And I'm looking at this and thinking, I should go say something. I should go do something. But I didn't. I didn't want to get into trouble. I didn't want to make a scene with my grandson. I have a million excuses. But what if every time we saw that, we walked up to the action police and said, what's going on here? Why are you doing this? He wasn't hurting anybody. Or we phoned the police board and said, I don't like what the action police are doing downtown. They're picking on people who don't deserve it. Use your resources for something else. Work like other jurisdictions do, who bring along a street outreach worker when they deal with people downtown. So I think that we're divided, and we're divided intentionally. So, we have a new series of workshops coming up. It will be your job in these workshops to do sort of what Deirdre was talking about, which is to think about what it would be like if you had to live on welfare. And we'll be doing budgets in the workshops. So what would you have to give up? What would it look like? How would you survive? And I am cognizant of the fact that some of the people in this room do live on welfare or have lived on welfare. And so you have a wealth of knowledge if you're willing to share it, and no pressure, with other people in the room. And this assignment will be easy for you. Good. What you have to bring to the tutorial, I need you to look for an apartment. One that you can get for $368 a month. That's what you get on welfare for shelter allowance for a single person, with as many details as possible. Then I want you to look for another apartment. This time you have $578, but it needs to be suitable for you and a child. That means, according to child welfare rules, the child has to have their own bedroom. Also think about the fact, yes, you wanted to ask a question? Well, you might want to think about that, because which roommates would they be? Can you trust them with your child? Now, if you're a single person, which roommates might they be? Can you trust them, period? Yep. Yes. You were going to ask a question and you changed your mind? Yeah. Yeah, it has to be in Hamilton. Yes, at the back, there. It can be shared accommodations, but remember what that means. It is something, it's different to say, I'm going to university, I'm going to sacrifice for 3 or 4 years and live in shared accommodation with a bunch of other kids who are going to university. I can handle that for a while. What if that's all you get, ever? It's a little bit different. So you never get your privacy. You never get your own space. So I want you to think about the repercussions of the choices that you make as well. And there are some places that will not take people who are on social assistance in shared accommodation. You have to be a student. And by the way, you cannot get work fare as a single person while you're going to school. Yep. No. This is the workshop. The reflection on the workshop is your assignment. Okay? So we have very few minutes for questions about the assignments. Yes. Please do not start to get up. People have questions. I won't be able to hear them. And you might need to know the answer. Yes? Yes. Yes. There are 3 assignments for the submission. The first, okay, please stop. I can hear you up here. It's hard to concentrate. Yes, I get cranky. So, there are 3 assignments. The first one is you mark the essay, which is a not good essay. Please mark it. If you're using Microsoft Works, use the review function and comment function. Okay? So you can upload it online. There is a comment function on Mac as well. The second assignment is the one on history. You read the chapter on history. You go to the online tutorials on history. You do some other research, not online, some academic research, and you write a paper. The final one is the reflection on the exercise in the workshop. All of these are available on Avenue to Learn under the Dropbox function. Not content, Dropbox. And I put a note to that effect in the news section. If you have a question, look at the news section. Check out Avenue to Learn. You might even look at the questions that other students have asked before you email me or the TAs. Any other questions? There was one more, wasn't there? Yes. It's under review. So track changes and comment. That's how I mark your papers. Yes? Everything is uploaded into the Dropbox on Avenue to Learn as one file. Yes? You don't have to hand it online, do you? Yes, you do. If you have an issue with Avenue to Learn, please come and talk to me. With 475 students in the class, the most efficient and effective way to get your papers and not lose them is to have them handed in online. Anything else?
Okay, tutorial.